Wow, I love it. Oh, there's the mic. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Democratic Governors Association Women Governors Fund panel with our historic 8 women governors, moderated by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Thank you so much for joining us for this important conversation. My name is Megan Meehan-Draper. I'm the Executive Director of the DGA. I'm thrilled you're all here. I heard that this is the hottest ticket of the week. I heard there were some long lines, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised this is the hottest ticket of the event because we have an historic class of women governors right now. So I started at the DGA in 2015. And that's a time when we had more governors named John than we had women. And we all in this room know that there are more obstacles for women seeking executive office than their male counterparts. And at the DGA, we saw this gap in leadership at the state executive level, and we said, let's do something about it. So in 2018, we started the DGA Women Governors Fund, which is the only entity that exists in the Democratic Party solely committed to electing women at the governor's level. So we went from 2 women governors to 8 women governors. We quadrupled it. And we've spent more than $80 million electing and protecting this current class of Democratic women governors. They're the stars of the party, they're household names, and with a tax on fundamental freedoms at an all-time high, it's more important than ever that we have women in the governor's office, so we're so thankful for their work. We're thankful for their voice in this fight. And as I've always said, but now everybody knows, Democratic governors are the bench of this party. And so we were thrilled that our outgoing chair, Governor Tim Walz, was selected to be the vice presidential candidate. But we were even more happy that that meant that Kansas Governor Laura Kelly became our new chair. She's won tough races in Kansas. She's going to lead us to victory in November. I'm thrilled she's our new chair. And with that, I'm going to welcome the stars of the show who you're here to see. And I'll start with our new chair from Kansas, Governor Laura Kelly. Next up, we have the new chair of our Women Governors Fund. When she became chair in December, we raised millions of dollars into this fund. She's from Massachusetts. It's Governor Maura Healey. She won one of the most competitive races ever in Arizona in 2022. Please welcome Governor Katie Hobbs. She's the first woman governor per state from Maine, Governor Janet Mills. In Detroit, they call her Big Gretch, but I know her as Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She crushed it on stage last night from New Mexico. Bring out Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. The first woman governor of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul. And all the way from the West Coast, from Oregon, welcome Governor Tina Kotek. Now, finally, I have the distinct pleasure and honor of welcoming our extremely special guest, the moderator for today's conversation. She's an award-winning actress, producer, activist. You may know her from the silver screen highlighting women in elected office, all while making us laugh along the way. We're so glad she's able to join us. Please give a round of applause for our special guest, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Hello, thank you for that warm reception and welcome one and all to the DGA Women Governors Forum. This is so cool. We are very honored to have 8 highly intelligent, highly capable women leaders for the 21st century with us, or what J.D. Vance might call a coven of semi-menstruating witches. Yeah. What? We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun. What a thrilling and historic week we are having here at the Democratic National Convention. Am I right? Yes. Oh my God. The optimism, I have to say, of the Harris-Walz campaign is contagious. I personally feel like I've been smiling for a month. My face actually hurts. And was anybody else weeping last night for 2 hours watching the first gentleman and the Obamas speak? Oh my God, wow. We're laughing, I'm crying, I'm fucking exhausted, to be honest with you. But we are filled with new hope and joy, and I think all of you women on the stage are evidence that Martin Luther King was right when he reminded us that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Sometimes we forget that when Trump is trying to bend it back the other way. But you know, 50% of the population is female, in case you didn't know that. And more than 50% of votes cast are cast by women. But even though we now have an historic 12 women governors, 8 of whom are Democrats, cheers. There's still only 25% of our governors and 0% of our presidents who are women. So you ladies and Kamala Harris are truly the tip of the spear to change that. And thank you so much to the DGA and the DGA Women's Governors Fund for getting us together to shine a light on all of you, which is what we're going to do. Now, I do want to start by saying that I am not a pundit. I am not a journalist, so this is going to just be a conversation. And I want you all to think of me today as a cheerleader and a friend, and of course, an award-winning actress, first and foremost. So, yeah, exactly. No acting in politics. So, so let's go around, and everyone, I would like to ask everyone if you know what your state flower is, and that is the only gotcha question of the day. I wrote them all down in case you forget what your flower is under this pressure. It's intense pressure. I know we all feel it. But let's just go around. Does everybody know? Yeah, hit it. Go. Governor
I don't, but the state bird is the meadowlark, sorry.
The rose.
Yeah.
Very
The
feminine
yucca.
flower.
Yes.
The orange barrel.
Yep.
Did you make that up?
That's what we say. I'm fixing the damn roads, Janet.
Mine's a pine cone and tassel, which is part of a tree.
The saguaro blossom.
The Mayflower.
She's looking. She made it up? No, she didn't.
Is there really a Mayflower?
It's also called the trailing arbutus. Not that we're picking hairs here, but okay.
Which is why I went with the Mayflower.
The sunflower, of course.
Yay. So you guys have all been in office for a while. Is there something that you wished that you had known on day one that you know now? Does anybody want to chime in on that? I'm going to have specific questions for each of you as we go along, but does anybody want to have a thought on that? Or do you pretty much, you knew it when you got in? No?
Well, I ran on knowing everything.
She did.
She got reelected because there's still more to learn.
But I think the one thing I wish I had known is how much I was going to have to increase my patience level. Because you know, getting things done in state government and through the governor's office, it just is a very tedious, sometimes frustrating process. And I think I was a little pushy at the beginning because I was expecting I'm the governor, you just do it, for God's sake. And so patience is something I wish I had known I was going to need more of.
That's a good answer. Yes, go ahead.
It turns out you really do need a Gary.
I want a Gary.
You kind of do need a Gary. Can you say where your jacket came from, by the way? Do you mind?
A Gary. Always take care of your Garys.
That's right. Exactly.
The importance of a scheduler.
Yes.
I mean, you get invited to every opening, every ribbon cutting,
Like this
everything.
thing right now.
I know.
Yeah.
I tried to say no, but. And in election year, you'll go to the opening of an envelope. I mean, everything. And you have to juggle stuff.
Yeah.
Janet, you guys are celebrating opening of envelopes. I knew there was something very special about Maine.
Yeah, some places we still use envelopes. You write letters. Yeah.
This is for the group. It's kind of, why do you think it's important to get women into office down ballot? Let's talk about the importance. I do a lot of work for down ballot candidates, and but I wonder if you could speak to that, particularly nowadays, how critical that is.
The down ballots become the up ballots.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
You start here.
Yeah.
I started at the lowest level. I was maybe just a step above dog catcher in my town. It's kind of a low level, and I worked my way up. So you build the farm team, right? That's how you have to do it. You have to invest in people. I go out and recruit people. I have a nice, friendly waitress. You want to run for office someday? Because the guys don't require any qualifications. They just step up and run. Am I right about that? We got a guy who's like, I'm a billionaire. I want to be president, and I'm going to ruin the country. And he did. So I just want to say, women should not have to have the greatest resume in the world to start getting into the game. School board, town board.
Wow.
That's where the next talent's coming from. So thank you for your efforts to help those women get elected as well.
Plus, critical decisions get made down ballot. And given that we have an incredible expert at free and fair elections as a governor of a very critical state in Arizona, we need women elected up and down the ballot to make sure that every critical decision that affects our lives is being done the way that it ought to be done, so that it's fair and equal and, quite frankly, effective.
It really is about building the bench. I wouldn't be here as governor if I hadn't been in the legislature. I wouldn't have been in a position to run for Secretary of State, and certainly not governor. And just look at our next president. She started as a DA. Down ballot races are critical.
Right.
I think the other reason you want to go down ballot is because then you have women who are closer to the people, and they can bring you that. We're somewhat removed, so it helps to have women down there on the ground, really hearing what's going on and bringing that information to you. And I also, quite honestly, have found that with women in the legislature, for instance, I always know they have my back because they understand what I'm going through. And so they tend to have my back, and I don't have to worry as much about bringing them into the fold.
And I'd just say, a lot of us are in state, some of us were in state legislature, some of us were AGs. Look at the decisions. It's your school committee that's going to decide curricula, whether there's health education, especially for girls. Funding for education, for housing, protection of abortion rights, that's all happening by state actors right now, up and down the ballot. Election protection, the work that Katie's having to do, so important. So thank you for up and down the ballot. Those seats really matter, and women should run for all of them.
Yeah. All the women listening, run. Just run. Do it. Do you think that there is a unique advantage? This is kind of a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think there's a unique advantage to being a female and being a governor? Does it give you a leg up over your male colleagues?
Yes.
That's it. And we're done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a wonderful chat.
I do. There are unique hurdles. There are unique barriers. There are a lot of different ways that we are treated compared to male candidates.
But I would also say that it is a huge advantage to be underestimated in any debate, in any way you show up. And look, we can rock some fabulous colors too, right? But I do think that that's a huge advantage to come in where people write us off, don't expect us to be as deep on issues or as thoughtful in articulating a vision or as tough as everyone on this panel is. And I would much rather be underestimated than overestimated.
Yeah.
So we got that going for us.
Yeah.
And it's not how it should be, and it's not that I'm saying that that's a great thing for our society, but it is an advantage for women running for office.
That's interesting.
I also think, though, that that underestimation is going to fade away as time goes on.
With President Harris, you're right.
Okay, so I'm going to get into some specific governor question type things. Yeah, get ready. Fasten your seatbelts.
I thought the flower was hard.
Governor Kelly, congratulations. So you just became the chair of the DGA. When your predecessor, Governor Walz, was chosen to be the VP candidate, which we're so excited about. So not only are you the new chair of the DGA, but you're also the twice elected Democratic governor of a red state. What the hell? What is something you've been able to get done in your state that you wish more people were aware of?
And I will get to that in a second, but you know, I've got to say, as chair of the DGA,
Yes.
you know, that, you know, behind these 8 fabulous women is another fabulous woman who was just on the stage before, Megan Meehan Draper. Yeah. So behind every 8 women, there is one.
Yes.
A really good one. But no, Megan and her team have just done an incredible job, and it really, they're responsible for us all sitting here at this point. So just wanted to give her that shout out. Now, in terms of what I've done that I wish people knew about, this is where my nerd side comes through.
Yeah, do it. Bring out your nerd. Let's
Yeah,
go.
because, you know,
Oh, jeez.
I wish people knew what we're doing in our prisons. You know, that's so often a forgotten part of your responsibility. And other people don't think about it at all, but we have really spent a considerable amount of time, energy, resources, and thought into changing our entire prison system from just one being punitive to one being really more rehabilitative, but also education. We are starting to see our incarcerated folks as our workforce, our potential workforce. And so we have ingrained education training programs. We're actually building campuses on our correctional facilities to ensure that these folks can get the education that they need to be successful when they get out. We've taken it from the adult, and now we're taking it down into the juvenile level. So I think that's the thing. We'll never get any press on it, never get advertised.
You're getting press now.
But yeah, and I appreciate it. But that's one of the things.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you for that. That's great leadership. Thank you. Governor Lewin Grisham?
Yes.
I have heard from some of your fellow women governors.
Who was it?
I'm not going to tell you. That you have a very famous sense of humor. So quickly, say something funny right now. I'm kidding. But in fact, I'm certain that having a sense of humor is a great thing to have as an executive, as a leader. Can you talk about how you bring humor to the governorship and to your fellow women governors? And if it's sort of nasty, just go ahead. Who cares?
Well, this will surprise my 2 daughters who have never had a practical joke happen to them more than 7 days a week since they were born. I think humor actually is an effective tool when things are hot and tense. And so I come at it naturally. I can't help it, but I really am a bit of a practical joker. And these guys all know. And so they tread lightly, except that Maura Healey decided not to tread lightly, and I just want her to be on notice. But one of my more famous pranks is I took all the furniture out of a congressional member's office and laid sod, and then put all of his furniture back on live grass.
No.
Yes. And my chief of staff has a door that I can lock. It adjoins our offices.
Yeah.
And you can lock it from my side, but he can't lock me out. So he's having meetings, and I just jump in there and scream, and it's unsettling. But then he can say, she's just like that. It's just better, really, if you just give us whatever we want. Otherwise, she's just going to keep doing that
So it's
for the
like
rest of the day.
it's your version of good cop, bad cop?
It's my version, and it's very effective.
That's good. I like that. Governor Mills. Yes. You won your election for governor of Maine in 2018, flipping that seat from red to blue and becoming the first woman governor of your state. I absolutely love Maine. And I live in California, and I love California too. Yeah, come on, let's go. But I often say California has everything except Maine. So you've been governor for 6 years, so I have 2 questions. First, how have your priorities changed since you started out in the job? And second, would Maine be interested in becoming Eastern California? Or California could become Western Maine. I mean, it's obviously a negotiation, and we don't have to figure it out now necessarily, but just keep that in the back of your head. But anyway.
Probably not.
Yeah. No?
We don't want to be a colony of California. We don't. No, we're happy the way we are. Nobody knows we're there, really, except New Hampshire. We only touch New Hampshire. But, no, we're a very happy state. No, what didn't we know when I took office? Wow, I mean, we had the pandemic.
Yeah.
Which was pretty much of a shocker. And, nobody runs for governor thinking, oh, someday I'm going to just cancel 4th of July parades and Labor Day picnics and funerals and weddings and graduations and close all the bars. Nobody does that. Nobody thinks that. But we all went through that. Some of us went through that as AGs or as governors. And so that was an eye-opener. Yeah,
right.
That was a tough one.
Did it shift your priorities in any way?
Yeah, I started thinking about how we can do things better in ourselves as a small state, how we can produce more products, how we can diversify our farming and forestry and fisheries and stuff, that kind of thing, and looking at innovation. But yeah, it gave me a different perspective on the people, and I think the people had a different perspective on what government does for them. What is this safety net? How good is it? Are there tears and holes and gaps in it? And isn't that our job to make sure there are none and make sure we lift up everybody? So
Great. Governor Hobbs? Yes, hello. In addition to being governor, you're also a super athlete, right?
I wouldn't say super.
Well, excuse me, haven't you competed in an Iron Woman race?
Yeah.
oh my God.
So you don't think that's super? No, use your thing. First of all, she said, that's not super. It's an Iron Woman. What's happening? I think you're crazy. You are crazy. How many calories do you have to eat to get that done? Do you have to, a lot? Here, use your microphone.
Oh, a lot.
Does being a super athlete, and I say you are a super athlete, does that help you battle your Republican legislature and get things done for the people of Arizona? Actually, I really mean that as a serious question, because I think that kind of discipline, for real, can translate to extraordinary leadership. Can you talk about that connection in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, for me, it's not really about preparing to fight the legislature. I think for all of us, governing is about working together. Whether we have legislative majorities or not, we were elected to get things done and deliver for our constituents. And so I have to, every day, work with the Republican majority in the legislature to do that, whether we agree on all the issues or not. And I think that what any kind of athletic training, whether I'm training for an event or just going for a run, is the thing that I need to stay focused and to remind myself every day why I do what I do and why I ran for governor, and being able to take those grudges from the horrible indicted fake electors that I have to deal with in the legislature and work with them to achieve something like water security in our state. And for me, that's about the kind of training that it takes to do a intense race like an Ironman or a marathon or whatever, or if I'm just doing it to keep in shape and keep healthy.
Great, fantastic. I mean, it is. I'm in awe. Iron Woman and then governor. What the hell? So, Governor Healy, you're an athlete too. You played professional basketball, right? Wow. By the way, one of my kids, Charlie, he played Big Ten basketball right here in Chicago at Northwestern University. And it was formative for him, honestly. But unlike Governor Hobbs and her triathlons, basketball is a team sport. Do you think that has a role in making you the leader that you are today? And do you think that my son will one day be the governor of Massachusetts? I mean, and that last question is a very serious question, and please do not dodge
I mean,
that
I don't know if
question.
we're going to let a man serve going forward, but I'm sure Charlie would be great. You know, obviously I'm a point guard, right? Which is all you can be when you grow to be 5'4". So that made me a little bossy.
You're a giant.
You would have been so good, Michelle. I know. 3-on-3 next Olympics. It's the new game this year. So I was a point guard. I'm a little bossy. Love basketball. It is a team game. And I think one thing I love about this team is different states, you know, different callings brought us here, but we are such a team. And I think this party is an unbelievable team. That's what you've seen on display all week, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody's got their role and their position to play. It definitely makes you tough. I think when you come through and you play competitive sports, but so for me it's been a huge asset. And as a point guard, and a nod to my colleagues here, it's never about points scored, though you're always on offense. You're always pressing, right? But the greatest statistic is the assist. And these women and Democratic governors deliver in spades day after day for people in their state.
What a phenomenal answer. Yeah, really nice. Wow. Governor Whitmer, congratulations on your recent New York Times bestseller, True Gretch, which I loved, and I read it on the plane on the way here. There is a favorite quote of mine is in the book, and I pulled it out. It's a portion of a speech you made in 2023 when you signed the Reproductive Health Act into law after a 10-year fight. You said, don't stop fighting for what you know is right. There's a warning in the story, too, for anyone who wants to roll back our rights. Don't mess with American women. Yeah. We are tough, and we fight back, and we will win. You come for our rights, and we will work harder to protect them. How great is that? I love that. I love it. Your book is funny, it's lighthearted, but you've dealt with some really serious stuff as governor, as all these governors have, but specifically for you, a pandemic, an assassination attempt, climate disasters in your state. In the face of all of that, you know, if I could see just rolling up into a ball and giving up. I mean, honestly, as a human being, if you think of that, how do you stay afloat? How do you keep fighting the good fight under those circumstances, really?
Well, thank you. First, I'm so glad you liked the book. I'm happy
did.
about that. I tried to make it funny enough and
You
short
did.
enough that people would actually read, even I would read something
you
like
did
that.
it.
So, thank you. You know, that's the question I get a lot, is how do you stay optimistic when everything can feel so heavy at times, from the climate events, the pandemic, to the plot to kidnap and kill you, to 28 recall attempts in my first term. I mean, it's been a lot, and yet there's inspiration everywhere. There really is. And I do keep a gratitude journal. I write down 3 things at the end of every day that gave me some joy. And some days it's really easy. My list is like 10 long. And today, at least there's 8 other things on it. You and my 7 beautiful colleagues here. But even on the hardest day, there's something there. And, you know, when we've had shootings that also have been some of the most trying times, or, you know, any of these events, sitting down and doing that is really helpful. It keeps me keeps me focused and keeps me happy. And some days it is just my dog and my bed and tequila. But most days it's because I didn't hide under my covers. I went out and engaged with people. And we had a flood in Midland, Michigan, and I had to survey the damage. And it was in the middle of the pandemic. We had to evacuate 10,000 people in the middle of the night, in the middle of the pandemic. And I thought, I don't know how much more of this I could take. So I had to go and tour it. And when we landed and walked around, I saw people helping one another, helping their neighbors. And it was like, that for me was the inspiration I needed that day. And it's turning it off is understandable, a desire, but getting more involved is where you can see what you can do and how you can be of help and why you stay in this. And I think leaning in more is the best antidote.
That's the tonic, isn't it? That's the tonic. It's a great answer. Governor Hochul, you are the first woman governor of New York, so I want to talk about...
Not the last,
What?
not the last.
Not the last,
not the
but
last.
the first, so good on you. So I want to talk to you about reproductive rights. You know, my character in Veep once said, if men got pregnant, you could get an abortion at an ATM. Which I stand by as a human being. I think that's true. And that was before, by the way, the highest court in the land decided to overturn Roe v. Wade. So as the first woman governor of your state, when the Dobbs decision came down, what was the first action that you took?
I went to a vigil at night in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, and I held sobbing young women in my arms. It broke my heart to know that something that my mother's generation fought for, I certainly took for granted.
Yeah.
That my daughter Katie's generation now is lost, and I'm going to fight like hell to get back for my little granddaughter. That is how I felt. I said, you cannot do this to us. So it was a moment of pain, but also it was a moment of strength. As I saw the women of New York stand up in our legislature, I called them back in an emergency session. And I said, we're going to pass laws because, yes, you can have an abortion in the state of New York, but there are sisters across this nation who are going to need our help. I put $35 million into a fund, an abortion support fund, so we could expand our clinics. We let women from other states know this is a safe harbor for you, come here. I had protections for our doctors so they would not be prosecuted in other states for anything they would do in our state with someone from another state as well. So we passed laws, we jumped to it. I visited Planned Parenthood clinics right off the bat and said, we're here with you, you're going to be okay, but you're going to get more people here. But right now, as a result of that decision, 1 out of 3 women of childbearing age are living under an abortion ban in this country. This country. And that is still shocking to comprehend.
Yeah.
And I knew that New York State, which passed abortion rights 3 years before Roe v. Wade, we passed the voting rights for women 3 years before the decision decades ago, a century ago. And we are the birthplace of the women's rights movement. So I said, this is the state. This is the state that has to stand up and say, we're going to be there for them. So this got very personal to me very quickly. What I had to do to just comfort the women of my state, but also send a message across this nation. We will not stand for this, and we'll change an election to make sure that we can release those freedoms back to the women where they always belong.
Good, perfect.
If I could just say one thing, I want to say thank you to Governor Hochul. My daughter and my granddaughter live across the street from Prospect Park, and they thank you for showing up.
Governor Kotek,
Yes.
on your election, I want to first congratulate you on your election in 2022. Before you were governor, you were Oregon's longest-serving Speaker of the House, which is incredibly cool. I'm guessing you had to tell a lot of men what to do. That must have been fun.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Can I apply for a position like that? Can you
Sometimes men like to be led. It's okay.
Can you recall the first time you were the only woman in the room or the only woman in a decision-making setting? And what was that realization like? What was that? Talk about that.
Oh, lots of those
Yeah.
moments. First, when I became speaker, all the other leadership at the time was male. And you notice when you're the only one in the room, I felt like every day people weren't in the room except for me.
Oh, really?
People who were like, what do the women think about this? You're having this lovely conversation, but what does it mean for real people? And I think we've all experienced that a little bit, being the women in the room. And the good thing is we've changed that.
Yeah.
My caucus leaders, we now have another woman speaker. I mean, things have changed, and it takes all of us. Your earlier question about down ballot in the pipeline, what I think we have all realized is like, I need a few more women in this room, and we are doing it every single day by modeling best behavior and showing what is possible and getting more women in the room. But you definitely feel when that sense of, there are people out here that matter, and this isn't a game. And I think women get that more than the men do sometimes.
Good. So this is a question for Governor Hobbs, Governor Kelly, and Governor Louis-Dreyfus. Governor Hobbs, Governor Kelly, your states, Arizona and Kansas, have passed some of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country. Your citizens are having to travel for abortion care to Colorado and California, but also to New Mexico. How are you working with Governor Louis-Dreyfus and other states to get these women the care that they need?
I'll take that. So we started by passing or issuing an executive order to protect patients and providers from prosecution for seeking care out of state. So that was really critical. We also made contraception available over the counter, important thing for people to have access to. And we're going to have the chance in November to make abortion protected in our state's constitution. So following Kansas's great lead, which was the first state to protect abortion rights after Dobbs. But the fact is that we are under an extreme restriction in Arizona, and women who get pregnant don't have access to the care that they need. And so we're surrounded by pro-abortion states, California, Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado. And we are working to make sure that people can get the care they need, including setting up a comprehensive website that provides information for people about what they can and can't do if they're seeking reproductive health care and where they can go to get it otherwise.
Actually, we do protect women's reproductive rights in our Constitution, and our Supreme Court avowed that not in 2019, I think. And as a result of that, the legislature decided to put an amendment on the ballot in 2022 to strip that right, that constitutional right from women. They should never have poked the bear, because what happened was women, young people, men, all over Kansas came together and showed up at a primary. You know, ordinarily in Kansas, Democrats don't vote in primaries because we have enough trouble finding one candidate, much less two. Independents can't vote, and usually it's just the very extreme Republicans who come out to vote in the primary. Not this time. We had record turnout, and 60% of Kansans validated a woman's right to privacy and reproductive rights. And I think we set the stage for other states then to follow suit, you know, in whatever way they had to protect women's rights. And I think it's carrying on into this election. I think we're seeing what's happening, that there's no lack of interest now. You know, it really has awoken people, particularly our young people, to the fact that, you know, the rights that, well, I was actually pre-Roe v. Wade. So I came of age before it was there, and I was part of that fight to get Roe passed. So here I am a lifetime later and back at it.
Right.
But now joined by the young people who had been taking it for granted, but no longer will. And I hope they remember this so that their granddaughters don't have to go through this.
Yeah, no kidding. I think it's going to get people out to the polls, right? I like Don't Poke the Bear. That's really good. So I have this podcast, you know, called Wiser Than Me, where I talk to women who are really pretty much over 70 and beyond to glean their wisdom. And so I reached out to my podcast audience to ask them if they had any questions that I could pose today. I know, get ready. So we got, believe it or not, we got like thousands of questions. I'm not kidding, which is cool, and it speaks highly of all of you for sure. So, so here are a few of them. The first question is, why are the GOP so fucking weird? Anyone want to take that? Anyone want to take it?
We don't speak for them. We don't speak
There
for
you
them.
go.
They didn't used to be weird.
That's
I grew up in a
right.
Republican family, and we have a solid group of Republicans in Maine who are not supporting Trump and who are, in fact, supporting Kamala Harris. Because they've lost, they know that the traditional Republican Party is not about Trump and never was. And he's like purged anybody who was sort of free thinking and a traditional conservative Republican. They don't have a place to go anymore. So they're not all weird, but
Yeah.
the Trump
Yeah.
MAGA Republicans, he's weird.
Yeah. Here's another question. Did you have a woman who was a role model or mentor that encouraged you to run for governor?
I'll take that because,
Okay.
no. I'm going to fix it. But I had the luxury of being an appointee for governors, all men, but a powerful female lieutenant governor who, you know, didn't quite get there, but like so many of us, was a trailblazer in New Mexico and encouraged me, even after I had a failed congressional election. And so then I ran, keep running and keep fighting. And what's really delicious about that leadership early on is something that she was working on with our legislature was back then full-day kindergarten, and it stayed for a bit, and it sunsetted, and they were trying to do early childhood education. And as governor, with that kind of leadership that I worked for, we now have a constitutional right to childcare. We'll be the first state in America to have universal free childcare. We have universal free pre-K. We have a moonshot investment in K-5. We have universal free meals. We have scratch cooking, healthy meals incentives, and we have free college. 2-year, 4-year, full-time, part-time, anywhere, anywhere, anywhere. And apprenticeships and trades. And that was that's her step in that direction. And I never forget it.
Give a shout out to her name.
Diane Dennis, Lieutenant Governor Diane Dennis, state of New Mexico.
Next one is, hi, Governor Healy, we love you, from Boston person. That's not a question, but I thought I should just give you that message.
Love you too. Person from Boston.
Yeah, it was your mom.
Thanks, Janet.
Another question is, how can state governments help identify and combat disinformation in today's world? That's
That
a
one.
toughie.
I'll take that one. We
Yeah.
are literally teaching media literacy in our schools because I want young people to differentiate between the old school mainstream media that we still hope is truthful. I mean, there's no more Walter Cronkite at that. Are you old enough to remember? Yeah, you don't remember. You're old enough. Forget it. Laura Kelly, remember that was me? Okay. So we have to teach young people. And I'll also say this. New York State stood up and became the first state in the nation to say to social media companies, stop monetizing our kids' mental health, stop bombarding them with addictive algorithms that they do not want to have, and let's let them start learning in school again without their hand being attached to a cell phone. So we are starting to take our kids back and deal with the fact that they're learning falsehoods. I mean, the things that Donald Trump said about me just today. I'm not vile. I'm not a horrible person. I assure you, I'm a nice person.
You seem nice to me, by the way.
Take that, Donald Trump. I'm nicer than you said I am today. It doesn't bother me at all.
We had two conflicting questions. I thought this was interesting. Is it a brat summer? And please, please don't mention brat summer. So I've made the decision to just go with question 2. What are you doing to ensure that your state's 2024 election will be certified without interference and that election workers will be safe?
We have a little experience with that in
Yes.
Arizona. So I feel very fortunate being the governor after having served as Secretary of State during a somewhat contentious election. We are working very closely right now with our Secretary of State and our Attorney General to make sure that we are prepared for every single scenario that may come our way. And I think the challenges that we saw in 2020 are going to look like kindergarten compared to what we see now. But we are ready, and we are going to do everything we can, which means everything, to ensure that Arizonans' votes are protected, that their voices are heard, and that our electoral votes are cast for the winner of the election in Arizona.
All right. I'll jump in too.
Yeah, please.
And similarly, in Michigan, one of the things that we were able to get accomplished in 2022 was we got all the statewides reelected. So me and my Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, and Attorney General Dana Nessel, thankfully. But we also flipped the House and the Senate for the first time in 40 years. And so we've been able to enact a number of election laws to protect election workers, to make it easier for people to participate by voting early, 3 weeks in advance of the election, in person, by having no reason absentee. We heightened criminal penalties for people that threaten election workers. And so we've done a lot of things to prepare. That being said, we know that Michigan is going to be in the spotlight once again. We know that the misinformation to the earlier question is still going to be rampant. We know that there are going to be all sorts of efforts. But I'll tell you this, in 2020, when we went through the last presidential, and there were a handful of states that were targeted, Katie's included with Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Michigan, all of these states have Democratic governors, thank God, because we will use every tool and power that we have to ensure that we get these votes in, we get them counted, and we get them certified without interference from others. And had any of our opponents been in these chairs, God forbid Carrie Lake would be governor of Arizona right now, or any of Josh's opponent or Tony's opponent or mine either, I would be much more worried. That being said, we all have to be vigilant, we have to get ready, and we got to make sure we get our votes in as early as we can.
Great. Great, thank you. I think we're getting close to being done, so I want to ask everyone here, in just a few words, what is your advice for Kamala Harris? Yeah, no kidding, right?
Let Kamala be Kamala.
Nice. Anybody else want to chime in?
Don't take anything for granted. There's still a lot of work ahead of us, and we have not won, and we have to fight for every single vote.
Yeah, she doesn't need any of our advice. That's one. She is ready to go, but her momentum, right? This effort where she is out everywhere, every minute, every day, talking to voters, talking to Americans, meeting them where they are. I love it.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to get to see more of that. So we ought to be really encouraging, and we need to back up that messaging with her and for her, next to her, behind her, in front of her, every single minute of every single day.
My
Similarly,
advice
I would
to her-
just-
Preach.
My advice to
Preach.
her is real simple. don't read the comments. You'll feel much better about yourself. Just don't read the comments. That's I don't.
I would just say, call on us. She knows that. We've known her. We worked with her as Attorney General and in higher offices. And call on us. We're your friends. She knows that, but it's worth saying again. We're there for you.
Okay.
And send him walls everywhere you can.
Yes. Boy, I couldn't agree with that more. Everywhere. He's so fabulous.
Second that. And look, I got to rep Massachusetts, Converse made. Keep rocking the Converse. Keep drinking water. Stay on offense. And know, Kamala, that there are girls and women out there all across America, all across the world, who are looking to see this happen. And more than that, who need to see this happen. And with the help of everybody out there and everybody coming to play, we're going to make this happen.
Oh, I love it. I'm so psyched. Okay, very last question. I played a vice president, and I played POTUS on TV. So my question is this. Do you think that makes me ready for national office? Or should I graduate from college and put in a few decades of real work, like you did? You think? Never mind, I know the answer.
Are you running as
forget
a
it.
woman?
Never. I'll never identify as a woman. No, I'm kidding.
You're more qualified than Donald Trump. Don't worry about it.
I want to thank you all for being here, and this has been truly delightful. I think everyone really enjoyed this conversation, and thank God for the DGA and the Women's Fund for the DGA. I'm just in gratitude to everybody here, and keep up the good work, fight the good fight. Let's go. Let's elect Kamala Harris to President of the United States.
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah.